we're looking at these maps, I want you to keep in mind that a war was fought last year over the same thing that caused the Crimean War. This is where history is really useful. When you understand this in the Crimean War, you'll understand why there was a war between Ukraine and, a little war between Ukraine and Russia last year. Okay, so this is a picture of Europe just before the Crimean War. Right here is the Crimean Peninsula. So there's not a country called Crimea. But there is a peninsula, the Crimean Peninsula, and it has an interesting history. Now I have to be able to see it too, Ben. There we go. So first I want you to notice some important things here. So this is back in 1850-ish. Look at this. What's this nation here, Danny?
Russia.
Russia. Russia goes all the way to the top. It's all the way up on the Baltic. And it's all the way down to the Black Sea. Oh my word. There are several countries. Ben, you need to get a grip.
Yeah,
There's
and I'll get a grip on this.
I mean on your, the food, the behavior.
That
focus.
wasn't on purpose, is what I was trying to say.
It never is. So here we are. Notice that Russia goes all the way down to the Black Sea. It also goes all the way over to contact the Ottoman Empire, which is in the business of falling apart now. The Ottoman Empire was a hugely powerful. We've been talking about the battles that stopped the Turks from conquering all of Europe. In fact, who can give me one battle that I've described as helping to save Europe from the Ottomans? Yes.
The Battle of Malta.
The Battle of Malta. That's right.
Vienna. No. Yeah. Malta.
Yes, there were two battles of Vienna.
Mm-hmm.
So Malta is 1565. The Battle of Vienna, the first one we did was 1729. The last one 1629, and the last one was 1763. And then we had who can remember the giant naval battle between the Ottomans? This was probably at least.
It starts with an L, right?
It does start with an L, and it was right down here. Yes. Who had that? That was Mom earning a meeple. Go ahead. Lepanto. Nice job.
You want me to get the meeples?
No, that's okay. Okay, so, but those things were all about 100 years in the past now, and in this time, the nations of Europe have become stronger relative to the Ottoman Empire. So when we look at this, you can see some territories, Moldavia and Wallachia, they're areas that have broken away from the Ottoman Empire. They aren't controlled by that, but they are still dominated by them. They are vassals. Have you guys ever played Europe Universalis on the computer?
No.
States can be in a state of vassalhood to each other, which means you're not part of the empire, but you are aligned with them. You are dependent on them. You usually pay them some kind of tribute. So these are places that used to be part of the Ottoman Empire. Look at the mighty Austrian Empire. Ben was telling me the other day he didn't remember the Austrian Empire. But the Austrian Empire is huge. It is a descendant of what empire that we talked about many times earlier. Can you help me with this? It was the empire that was at the heart of the Holy Roman Empire.
The Austrian? Wait,
Did
you say that?
What was the nation that you're right.
Yeah,
It was Austria. That's right. So Austria, which was the Habsburgs, was the name I was looking for. But that's okay. So the Austrian Empire, but it also has a country over here. What country would be on our map if we looked at a current day map of the eastern part of this?
Yugoslavia?
No, that's Hungary right there. Very close though. Yugoslavia was down here before it was destroyed. But so this empire, this is called the Austrian Empire, but on a lot of maps it would be called the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Because the Hungarians were actually still a kingdom. There was a king of Hungary who was, in some ways, the equal of the Austrian emperor. Okay, but look what we don't see on this map. So this map is only from, 1850s. This is really recent. But what's up here and what isn't up here?
Prussia.
We see Prussia. What don't we see?
Poland. Oh, wait.
There's
Germany.
a little bit Germany. So there's Poland, but notice that Prussia has not yet taken over all these other little areas here that are now part of Germany. All those areas that are light tan there, they're outside the Austrian Empire, but they're not in a nation at all. Well, they are their own sort of small territories. So we're going to talk in chapter, what was that? Chapter 8 or so, chapter 7, about how Germany came together. But look at this. There's another modern nation that doesn't appear on this map. What's going on down here?
Italy.
What's there now? I heard it
Italy.
over here.
Italy.
Italy. But there it isn't. Is there an Italy on this map? No. It's actually, most of what is now Italy is part of Austria. This is why when we get to the formation of Italy, it's largely about defeating Austrian armies of invasion. Do you remember when Napoleon was going through Italy? He went right through here. Who was he fighting in northern Italy?
The Austrians.
The Austrians. Those armies he was defeating were not Italian armies, even though they had a lot of individual Italians in them. They were Austrian armies. This part of Italy had thought of itself as Austrian for a long time by this point. So it was a major development. And who can guess what this little piece carved out here is? What's that?
Rome.
Rome. And what's in Rome, Ben? What nation state is this area right around Rome? It's connected to the religion that has its heart there.
The Roman Catholic Church.
The Roman Catholic Church had its own nation called the papacy.
It was called, the nation was the papacy?
Yeah, or they sometimes...
I thought it was the, okay.
It's had a couple of names.
So it's kind of like our Washington, D.C., where it's like not actually part of...
It is
Italy
now.
proper?
It is now, but until the
At this
formation
point.
of Italy, it actually was a country. It had its own tiny little army.
And it was called the papacy.
On some maps, yes. So, or the Papal States was, I think, the
How
the formal
apropos,
name.
because isn't he in Philly? Or is he in Philly?
He is in
yet?
Philly. Yep. So you can see this map is as fun for what isn't here as what is here. What isn't there is Italy and Germany. Okay, but over in the Ottoman Empire, if we had a slightly different map, you could see the ways in which the Ottoman Empire has been busy falling apart. So these areas have been given to France. This is the beginning of colonies that France has. See, it says regions lost to France. The reason I'm focusing on the Ottoman Empire is the Crimean War is really about dealing with the decomposition, the falling apart of the Ottoman Empire, because the Crimea was an Ottoman province. The natives there are called Tatars, or Tatars, T-A-T-A-R, and they were Muslims. And this had been an outpost of the Ottoman Empire for hundreds of years. But just like, so the general picture here is that the Ottoman Empire, which used to go all the way up here, all of these things used to be Ottoman Empire. All of these things used to be Ottoman Empire. But now the Ottoman Empire is just this color right here. So this is, what is this one? This is, they're achieving independence to become Egypt.
I remember drawing every part of this thing in Age of Empires for you.
Ben made a map for me. Okay, so the Ottoman Empire in general is busy falling apart. But the part we're going to focus on, because it has huge strategic implications, is this part up here. Now, if you look at that color, what does it say that is down here? Regions what? Can you read that? Okay, Ben.
Regions lost to
Russia.
Right.
Austria or
Now
Russia?
now get that out of the way so I can see again.
Begins with an A.
Regions lost to
Oh,
Russia.
that one.
Right, because that's the Crimea. We're gonna zoom in on this area now. So this peninsula here is what everybody was fighting about. In fact, in a certain sense, this was a war between these two dots right here. What's this dot?
Constantinople.
And what's this dot?
Sebastopol.
Sevastopol. And what is hugely important about these two cities?
Because
Go
they're
ahead.
both huge harbors.
They're the major ports. If you want to dominate the Black Sea, you need either Constantinople or Sevastopol. There are not other powerful ports and anchorages that you could use to base a navy. So the Russians have imperial ambitions. They want to be as powerful as they can. Sevastopol, after they took it from the Ottoman Turks, was the place that they were using to project power into the Black Sea. Now, it says lost to the Russians. And we were talking about 1850s. If I told you that this was lost to the Russians as a result of things that were happening in 1815, could you guess what happened here? What's going on in 1815 over in in all of Europe? I'll give you a clue. It is a cataclysm centered on France, and centered on a leader of France.
Oh my gosh, Napoleon died? Was sentenced to Elba.
He's sentenced to Elba. 1815 is when Europe finally rids itself of Napoleon, and there are huge map changes all over Europe as they settle into boundaries that are going to be stable. But Napoleon had an ally, Turkey. Turkey was Napoleon's ally not because they were particularly...
Were they Turkey at the time?
They were Turkey. They were the Ottomans, the Ottoman Empire.
Okay.
Right, you're right.
No, just because I know Germany's not really Germany, Italy's
Right.
not really Germany.
You're
it's really
right.
Turkey. Okay.
This is really the Ottoman Empire.
Okay.
Excellent point. The Ottomans allied with Napoleon on the basis of an old saying that the enemy of my enemy is a friend. They didn't really like the French. They weren't anything like the French. They were Muslims while he's Christian. But look at the map and tell me who Turkey's most common enemies are likely to be. Russia. They fought wars with the Russians about every 10 years just because time was going. Austria. Thank you, Ben. Nice job. But who was Napoleon fighting against in his wars? He fought wars with Austria in 1805, in 1809.
He also fought with Russia.
And he invaded Russia in 1812. So during all this time, Napoleon is trying to incite the Turks.
And that disastrous battle in Egypt?
In Egypt, that's earlier. But yes, so but
I was wondering about that. Why would they ally themselves, even though they're invaded by the French?
Well, because sometimes people mend fences because circumstances change. After all, he didn't get very far then.
Yeah.
He was eventually evicted, and the part that he was attacking was also, well, you know what? I'm going to let it go with that. It evolves to be independent. It becomes Egypt.
You should have attacked the Turks so that the Russians and Austrians allied with them.
No, the Russians and Austrians are too central to where he wants to own territory. Remember that what he wants to do is expand France. And so attacking Turkey is not really going to help him very much. The short answer is he should never have launched that campaign to Egypt. And he realized it. That was 1797 or 9, late 1790s. And 8. It's 8. He really did it because he was trying to project power into India. And this is going backwards a little bit, and I have to be careful about that because I have a tendency to do that. And we can't redo the Napoleonic Wars when we're moving on to the Crimean Wars. So my point is that during the Napoleonic Wars, the Ottomans often acted with Napoleon. Napoleon was a terrible ally for them because he wasn't caring at all about their interests, and he often would instigate them to declare war right when he was about to declare peace, so that the other side would be more anxious to declare peace. So the Ottomans were betrayed by Napoleon a couple of times. He would say, attack, 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 and then as soon as they did, the other guy would give better terms to the French, and he would make a peace treaty. Okay. But the point is that when 1815 came and Napoleon's off the field, the Ottomans are not able by themselves to fight with the Austrians and the Russians, and so some of these territory concessions come about at that time, including the Crimea. Now let's talk about the Crimea in Russian hands, in Turkish hands, Ottoman hands. It was one of the largest slave capitals, slave markets in the world.
Seriously?
Yes. Oh. This is one of the things that one should keep in mind when...
Could you say that again?
It was its primary economic activity was slavery. the Ottomans would sally forth into the Slavic lands of Russia and Ukraine, steal people like they were, like goats or cattle,